other sources, what we want to know now, is these series that he has, Abu Bakr series and Umar series, مش عارف إيش. Where are his sources that he is getting this stuff from? I have here Anwar al-Awlaki mentioning his sources in the Abu Bakr series. Let's listen to what he said, and this will be shocking.
We're building more without his Abu Bakr and abilities. Think to learn about them. Why? Because you don't. We cannot be the same. We have different abilities. We have different skills. Not everyone will be like Abu Bakr. Nor will everyone be like the personality of Abu Bakr. But you can be like Ma'ad ibn Jabal, a scholar. But personally, when people work on white pitch, so that also that I'm rich in visiting all of the classical books and.
Now this is him mentioning his sources for his Abu Bakr series. We just want to listen to one part of this, and we're going to mention that other stuff.
From each one of them, the most important and valid pieces of information. And he wrote an excellent book about Abu Bakr CD. And then in terms of audio tapes, the tapes of Amr Khalid Tariq Suwaidan are also beneficial.
The audio tapes of who? Tariq Suwaidan and Amr Khalid. طيب. الله المستعان. Tariq Suwaidan. Here is a Shaykh al-Fawzan talking about Tariq Suwaidan, and especially Tariq Suwaidan. Let me find it here. Talking especially about Tariq Suwaidan and his works on the companions. Here's the Shaykh al-Fawzan.
انتشرت أشرطة أحد الدكاترة في ذكر فتنة الصحابة وما حصل بينهم. في ذكر فتنة الصحابة. فتنة الصحابة وما حصل بينهم. وانتشر لبس بين العامة. والسؤال ما حكم الاستماع إليها وبيعها وتداولها وتسجيلها؟ هو على هذا الذي نشرها على العوام وعلى الناس ويتحمل الإثمان. ولا يجوز لك أن تشتريها ولا تراد منها لأنها تبعث على سوء الظن من العوام وعلى الحقد على بعضهم وتخطئة بعضهم. فالحقيقة أن هذا مجرم اللي دخل بهذا ونشره أنه مجرم ويتحمل
The Sheikh was asked about a series of tapes that Tariq Suwaidan has about talking about the fighting that occurred between the Sahaba. And the Shaykh al-Fawzan said, basically what he said, the sin of these tapes is on the people who spread them. Tariq Suwaidan. And then he said, in reality, the person who recorded these tapes is a criminal. Naam. Then we have a Shaykh al-Fawzan talking about Tariq Suwaidan in general.
السودان ما هو من أهل هذا الشأن ولا للحق يتكلم في هذه الأمور الصعبة وهو ليس عنده تخصص فيها ولا معرفة. الواجب الحذر من أشرطته، تحليل الناس من أشرطته لأنه صادر عن جاهل. من أين أخذ العلم؟ وين تعلم؟ وين يقولون إن تخصصه فيزياء. تخصصه في الفيزياء. لا وجاهل وجد هذه الأشرطة وصار يملاها بما يقدر عليه من الهذيان بدون علم وبدون بصيرة. وجاء أن الله جل وعلا سئل الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم أين كان الله قبله؟ قال كان في عمى يعني فضاء. الله جل وعلا ليس في جهة مخلوق، لا تحيط به الجهات سبحانه وتعالى، ليس حالا في شيء من المخلوقات، بل هو بائن من خلقه في عمى ما فوقه هواء وما تحته هواء، بمعنى أنه جل وعلا في فضائل ليس بمخلوق، لا يدخل في الخلق. لكن الدخول في هذه الأمور وخروجها على الناس والخشوش عليهم هذا ما يجوز، لا سيما إذا كان هذا الإنسان جاهل. لو سألته ما هو الفضاء، ما هو العمى، ما هو كذا، ما جاء.
نعم. He was asked about Tariq Suwaidan. Tariq Suwaidan in some of his tapes was speaking about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and something that has to do with Aqidah, yani what was before Allah created the heavens and the earth, so on and so forth. Naam. So Shaykh al-Fawzan rahimahullah, hafidhahullah, said, طارق السويدان ما هو من أهل هذا الشأن ولا له حق يتكلم في هذه الأمور الصعبة. He said, Tariq Suwaidan, he is not a person who is qualified to speak about these affairs, and he doesn't have the right to speak about these very difficult affairs. Yani these affairs are very serious matters. وهو ليس عنده تخصص فيها, and he doesn't specialize in these things either. ولا معرفة, nor does he know anything about them. الواجب الحذر من أشرطته. What's obligatory is that the people be warned from listening to his tapes. تحذير الناس من أشرطته, that the people be warned from listening to his tapes, because these tapes have come from an ignorant man, Tariq Suwaidan. Where did he get his knowledge from? Where did he learn? They say that Tariq Suwaidan, he specializes in physics. Naam. He specializes in physics. So he is an ignorant person. He found these tapes, and then he began to fill these tapes. And it's like the Shaykh is saying, he found a set of empty tapes, and he started filling these tapes with what he had the ability to fill them with from his insanity. Naam. بدون بصيرة, without any insight in doing so, إلى آخره. And Anwar al-Awlaki here has a Shaykh ibn Uthaymin on his paper. A Shaykh ibn Uthaymin, I have the audio here, but حقيقة we are very pressed for time. A Shaykh ibn Uthaymin is warning the people not to listen to Tariq Suwaidan, and especially that it is impermissible to listen to Tariq Suwaidan's tapes on the fitna of the Sahaba. Did you hear that? Why he's not listening to Shaykh ibn Uthaymin? Allah al-Musta'an. I have something here for Tariq Suwaidan. Tariq Suwaidan in this clip.
بالنهاية تسألني عن درجة الحرية والحرية في التعبير. أنا من عشاق الحرية، أقدس الحرية. عندي الحرية قبل تطبيق الشريعة.
Here is a clip to give you an example of what kind of person Tariq Suwaidan is. Tariq Suwaidan says, "You are asking me about freedom. You are asking me about freedom. I love freedom. I holify freedom. In my opinion, freedom should be implemented before the legislation of Islam. The legislation should be implemented. The legislation of Islam. So freedom comes first, then the implementation of Islam." With Tariq Suwaidan. يعني insanity, madness.
لأن إذا صارت الأجواء حرية كلام كبير. أنا أقول لك ليش؟ الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم شنو كان دعوته؟ شنو كان يقول لقريش؟ خلوا بيني وبين الناس، تكوني حر بس، ما بدكم تسلمون، بس اتركوني. إذا إحنا نؤمن أن معنا الحق وعندنا الدليل والمنطق، ليش نخاف من الحرية؟ صحيح. وذلك أنا من دعاة فتح باب الحرية، حرية التعبير وحرية الكلام. خلي الملحد يقول رايه، وخلي الكافر يقول رايه، وخلي صاحب المذهبية والطائفية يقول رايه، وما في شيء اسمه كتب تمنع.
This ignorant man here now is saying that, in my opinion, the door of the freedom of speech should be opened wide. Anybody wants to say anything, let them say what they want. You want to speak shirk, you want to speak kufr, you want to speak atheism, no problem. Open the door wide, because what we have is the haqq. That's what he's saying. And then he's saying, and there should be no such thing as books that are prohibited from entering the country. Yani any book want to enter the country, bring it in. Bring Playboy and Penthouse and the books of the Christians and the Jews and the books of magic and the books of kufr and ilhad. Bring it all, no problem. So Tariq Suwaidan, if we ask him, is halal ya fadilat al-Shaykh to sell alcohol? If he fears Allah and has any ounce of face left, he will say no. But it's okay to sell books on magic and voodoo and pornography, and that's okay, right? Ya fadilat al-Shaykh. Which one is more dangerous? These books or alcohol? No such thing as books should be prohibited. It gets better, or worse, I should say.
أنا هكذا أقدس الحرية دكتور لهالدرجة هي لكن عندي قيد على الفساد الأخلاقي. الحرية لا تعني إنك تسبني ولا تسب أبوي ولا تسب أمي ولا تسب مقدساتي. السب هذا ما هو حرية.
تمت المطالبة مؤخرا بإقامة كنيسة في
حق الناس أن تعبد.
وتم الرفض وانسحاب
من حق الناس أن تعبد كما تشاء. اللي بيسوي كنيسة واللي بيسوي حسينية واللي بيسوي مسجد واللي خلي الناس تعبد ما تريد. لا إكراه في الدين فمن شاء فليؤمن ومن شاء فليكفر.
He says, I believe that he has lost a part of his mind. He says here, it is the right of the people to worship whatever they want. It is the right of the people to worship whoever they want. Let the people who want to build a church, and let the people who want to build a Husayniyah, the Shia, build one, and مش عارف إيش. لا إكراه في الدين. Where is the evidence for that? لا إكراه في الدين. There's no compulsion in religion. Then he used a verse from Surah Al-Kahf. فمن شاء فليؤمن ومن شاء فليكفر. طيب? Whoever wishes, then he will believe, and whoever wishes, then let him disbelieve. This ignorant man is basically using this verse to say that Allah is saying, worship whatever you want. That verse where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, whoever wishes, then let him believe, and whoever wishes, then let him disbelieve, هذا تهديد. Allah is threatening these people. It's kind of like if you have a child. You say, look, I told you don't eat any more cookies. Now, if you want to test me, go eat cookies. Does that mean I'm telling him go eat cookies, ya ikhwa? But according to him, yes, it means that. فَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيُؤْمِنْ وَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيَكْفُرْ. Whoever wishes, then let them believe, and whoever wishes, then let them disbelieve. Even though Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the same Quran said, وَلَا يَرْضَى لِعِبَادِهِ الْكُفْرِ. And He is not pleased with His slaves that they be disbelievers. He is not pleased with disbelief for His slaves. So He is saying it is the right of the people to worship whatever they want. According to who? Tariq Suwaidan.
احنا دورنا دعاة ولسنا قضاة. احنا ندعو الناس. اذا انا مانع، اذا دينه مو عاجبني، ما هو سبه ولا امنعه ولا اضيق عليه، اروح ادعوه، اروح بالمنطق والدليل والبرهان اكلمه.
دكتور بس انت كلامك هذا انا الحين انا شخصيا الان قاعد اضيع بالفكر معاك، يعني اللي اعرف ان المجتمع محافظ، يعني غريب
سؤال بسيط وركات. انت مؤمن باللي عندك؟
اكيد.
وتؤمن انه حافظ؟
مؤمن بان
ليش خايف كلامك؟
ماني خايف من شيء، بس انت تدري طبيعه المجتمع تفرض عليه.
نفرض القضيه الاخلاقيه، ما نفرض التقييد على الفكر. الفكر يحارب ويواجه بالفكر، ما يواجه بالقوانين، ما يواجه بالمنع. هذا حرام وهذا ممنوع.
وجهات نظر متعدده، يعني شوف حتى الاختلاف الان بيني وبينك
ما عندي مشكله.
يعني هو مو بيني وبينك شخصيا، هو بين اللي انا اقوله واللي انت تقوله والمشاهد.
وياك يقول القران ما جاب كلام الكفار وحطه في القران.
So now his next evidence that we shouldn't have any books that are prohibited from entering the country, and whoever wants to speak publicly, privately, which is in complete opposition to Umar ibn al-Khattab and the Prophet ﷺ and the companions. But him, لا, it's permissible. طيب, if you read like اقتضاء الصراط المستقيم, you'll see Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu anhu, some of the regulations he made in his Khaleefah. Naam. So, according to him, let anyone want to speak, propagate, speak publicly, no problem. What's his evidence for that? Didn't Allah mention the words of the kuffar and their shubuhat in the Quran? Naam, but he was propagating them in the Quran or he was refuting them in the Quran? But when I just let a bunch of books go in the community, I'm refuting anything? La. This man is, as Shaykh Fawzan said, he is a criminal. He is a criminal. And يعني
القرآن ما جاء كلام الملحدين وقالوا إن هي إلا حياتنا الدنيا نموت ونحيا وما يهلكنا إلا الدهر. القرآن نفسه ما خلد في القرآن.
And anyways, he goes into a lot of things. And at the end he starts saying in Sahih al-Bukhari, the Christians came to the Prophet ﷺ's masjid and he allowed them to make their salah in the masjid and worship Isa in the masjid, مش عارف إيش. All kinds of madness. طيب, this is Tariq Suwaidan, and he should have taken the advice of Shaykh ibn Uthaymin and not listen to Tariq Suwaidan, Shaykh Salih al-Fawzan. But unfortunately, now here is Amr Khalid. Amr Khalid, all you have to do is go home. When you go home, go into Google and put Amr Khalid, picture of Amr Khalid. Just look at him and you will know where I'm coming from. Naam. Here is Amr Khalid. You see Amr Khalid? Nice big lush beard there. Naam. Amr Khalid calls the people for free mixing between men and women. And if you go on YouTube, you can watch Amr Khalid at a church service. If you want to vomit, you can go watch him in a church service in YouTube. Amr Khalid at church. And he's sitting there in his black suit, and the other people sitting there, and they're doing their worship. Wal-'iyadhu billah. Amr Khalid is another contemporary source of Anwar al-Awlaki in his Abu Bakr series. Who are we speaking about? Abu Bakr al-Siddiq, ya ikhwa. Abu Bakr al-Siddiq. And you tell me Tariq Suwaidan and Amr Khalid were beneficial? Beneficial with what, ya ikhwa? This is Abu Bakr al-Siddiq, ya ikhwani. Abu Bakr, the best of mankind after the prophets. And Tariq Suwaidan and Amr Khalid were beneficial. Here is Amr Khalid speaking. A question posed to a Shaykh al-Luhaydan.
أحد الوعاظ في القنوات الفضائية يقول أن إبليس لم يكفر بالله وأن الأخلاق أفضل من الصلاة والصيام والحج والدعاء، ويقول في حديث النبي عليه الصلاة والسلام النساء ناقصة بعقل ودين، يقول الرسول يمسح معهم وهذا الرجل يدعى عمر خالد، فما ردكم على ذلك وجزاكم الله خيرا. هذا لا يصح.
Here's the question posed to a Shaykh Salih al-Luhaydan, the former head judge in Saudi Arabia. سماحة الشيخ حفظكم الله، يقول السائل: أحد الوعاظ في القنوات الفضائية يقول أن إبليس لم يكفر بالله. One of the advisors, the wa'av, they give mawa'idh, يعني Amr Khalid, in the satellite channels, he claims that Iblis did not disbelieve in Allah. Shaykh Muhammad Raslan did a long refutation on Amr Khalid. Shaykh Muhammad Raslan said, because somebody was defending a Shaykh, someone was defending Amr Khalid and telling a Shaykh Raslan, la, you shouldn't have spoke about him like this, مش عارف ايش. يعني subhanallah, the newspapers in Saudi slander a Shaykh al-Fawzan and a Shaykh al-Luhaydan and slander a Shaykh ibn Baz in other countries before. طيب? But we don't say nothing. But when we go to speak about someone from Ahl al-Bid'ah, ignorant fool messing with the religion of Allah, all of a sudden, la ya Shaykh, that's haram, and how could you speak about him, and why are you talking about him like that, and leave the brother alone, and مش عارف إيش. So Ahl al-Sunnah make a little mistake, they're put on the grill. But Ahl al-Bid'ah, la, we gotta be easy and soft, and la ya ammi, and you're taking it too far and overreacting. Naam? Shaykh Raslan said, the person who sent me this letter, I am afraid that one day you will go home to your house and you will hear all of your family at once say, Iblis radiyallahu anhu. Iblis ma kafar, Iblis is not a kafir. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in Surah Al-Baqarah, وَكَانَ مِنَ الْكَافِرِينَ. And he was of the disbelievers. Amr Khalid la, ma kafar. Now, and the next thing he asked, and he said, and this man also claims that good character is more virtuous than salah and fasting and hajj and dua. We were created what? For good character. We weren't created for dua and salah and worship of Allah and so forth. ويقول في حديث النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم والسلام عليه الصلاة والسلام أن النساء ناقصات عقل ودين يقول الرسول يمزح معهم أعوذ بالله. And he is saying about the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم pertaining to his narration. The narration is reported by Bukhari wa Muslim on the authority of Abi Sa'id, that the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم said to the women, very famous narration, I do not know of anyone who is that they are lacking in their aql and deen. We know the narration. He says, la, the Prophet ﷺ was just joking with them. He didn't mean it. He was just joking. Naam. And this man is called Amr Khalid. So what is your rebuttal to these statements? وَجَزَاكُمُ اللَّهُ خَيْرًا.
لأن من يقول هذا الكلام ليس بداعي خير ولا بصاحب فلاح. يقول عن الجنس أنه كذا وأنه كذا ويخرج مقاصد النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إلى غير ما أراد. النبي بين للنساء لما قال لهن إن كنا ناقصات عقل ودين بين في العقل الله ما هو وبين في نفس الدين، لكن نقص المرأة في أمر دينها لا يضرها، إنما بيتها خير كثير في تلك المدة، لكن ذلك أمر ذكره الله عليها. ونحن في هذا الزمن كثرت الطلعات الخبيثة واتخاذ منابر فاسدة وتسور إلى الدخول في منابر الخير دعاة ضلال، فهؤلاء لا يوصفون بأنهم دعاة إلا إذا قيل دعاة فساد وفجور وظلم وعدوان. من استهان بهذا الدين أو حمل شيئا من نصوص الشارع صلى الله عليه وسلم على غير ما قصد وغير ما يعرفه أهل لسانه صلى الله عليه وسلم، فهذا يخشى أن يخرج من الملة نهائيا، نسأل الله العافية.
نعم. To finish up, Shaykh Salih al-Luhaydan hafidhahullah, he answers the question by saying, this person, it is not permissible to say in the question that he is ahad al-du'at. He is a person who is a da'i, a caller. Unless you couple that du'atu dalal, unless you say he is a caller to misguidance. Otherwise, you can't just say he's a caller. لأن من يقول هذا الخلل ليس بداعية خير ولا بصاحب فلاح. Because the one who says this types of things, by the meaning of what he said, this person is not a caller to good, nor is he a person of success. يقول عن إبليس أنه كذا وكذا. He says about Iblis that he is such and such, that he did not disbelieve. ويحرف مقاصد النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم على غير ما أراد. And he changes what the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم meant in his statements and says he meant something that he really didn't mean. That the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم informed the women when he said to these women, إن كنا ناقصات عقل ودين, that you are lacking in your aql and your religion. He mentioned in the same narration, he mentioned what is meant by al-aql, and he mentioned what is meant by ad-din, religion. لكن نقص المرأة في أمر دينها لا يضرها إنما فاتها خير كثير في تلك المدة. He said, but the deficiency of a woman in her religion, in the sense the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, it is not going to harm her. Rather, the only thing that happened is she missed out on some good in this time that she was on her menses. نعم لكنه أمر قد كتبه الله عليها. But menstruation and postpartum bleeding is something that Allah has decreed that a woman have. ونحن في هذا الزمان كثرة الطلعات الخبيثة. And then he mentioned some things. He said, وتصور إلى منافذ الخير دعاة ضلال فهؤلاء لا يوصفون بأنهم دعاة. He said, and many in our time have come into the good and the different paths of good, like teaching and so forth. They have come in there and they are actually callers to misguidance. So these types of people are not to be described as du'at only, unless you say that they are du'atu fasadin wa fujurin wa dhulmin wa udwan. Unless you say and couple that with the fact that they are callers to fasad, mischief, wa fujur, sinfulness, wa dhulm, transgression, wa udwan. Man istahana bi amri ad-din, whoever belittles the affair of religion, the religion, أو حمل شيء من نصوص الشارع صلى الله عليه وسلم, or takes the statements of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم out of context and makes it mean something that he didn't mean, and that the people of his time and his language didn't understand, then this person, it is feared over this type of person to leave the religion of Islam entirely. And that is the way that the Jews used to operate. Because Amr Khalid wants to please the kuffar. La, our Prophet didn't say that, you guys misunderstood. La, he's joking. You could joke in Islam. You could joke with someone and call them a fasiq. You can joke with someone and say they're deficient in their religion. That's halal. Let alone the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He's joking with them. He's joking. He's kind of يهزر. That's what he said. النبي بيهزر sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Naam. He's just joking with them. It's just fun and games. Naam. Because the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam goes around joking about legislation and wahi and so forth. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Wanting to please the kuffar, these people are destroying the religion of Islam. They're destroying it. Because they want to please what? Kuffar, and say la and appeal to them. مش عارف إيش. La ya ammi, this is our religion and this is what it means. Now if you can't accept that, what can I do for you? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَقُلِ الْحَقُّ مِنْ رَبِّكُمْ. Say the truth that has come to you from your Lord. فَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيُؤْمِنْ وَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيَكْفُرْ. Whoever wishes, let them believe, and whoever wishes, let them disbelieve. Yani is threatening those who disbelieve. Naam. That is the legislation we have. Not, oh, la, you guys got it misunderstood, and start saying that the Prophet ﷺ is saying things that are not true. If he comes and says to them, you all are deficient in your aql and your deen, and that is not true, what do we call that? Huh? A lie. The Prophet ﷺ lies? The Prophet ﷺ jokes and lies? لا بارك الله فيه ولا كثر الله من أمثاله. نعم. And he says, نسأل الله al-afiyah. And finally, Tariq Suwaidan here. I have a picture of him with al-Habib Ali al-Jafri. Al-Habib Ali al-Jafri, they go and they talk together and big friends. Al-Habib Ali al-Jafri, we don't have time to review what he does. خبيث صوفي كذاب منغمس في الشرك. الجفري خبيث كذاب صوفي منغمس في الشرك يكذب على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. نعم. And if you want to hear the statements about Ali al-Jafri, you can review what Shaykh al-Fawzan had to say about him and so forth. The man is a blatant liar. He will come and say, and in Sunan Abi Dawud such and such. It's nowhere to be found in Sunan Abi Dawud. As a matter of fact, sometimes the hadith doesn't even exist. Completely made up. Naam. Allahu al-Musta'an.